Hey guys, it's Aaron Heiser with Maker's Leather Supply, and today we're going to do a video that people have asked me for before on doing an inlay. See the little white star there sewn into the book cover there? Alright, so this is a very, very simple inlay. I am no inlay master by any means, but I've made myself several things that are kind of army green and brown with the off-white star on them, okay? This was the first thing that I had done is my, what do we call this one? Livestock commissioner's bag. Sorry about that. So anyway, I put it on the flap of my livestock commissioner's bag. If you want to see what the inside of that looks like, it's pretty clean. It's just, you can see the stitching around it, okay? And then I wanted to make my book to match my livestock commissioner's bag, but now I am making a duffel bag, which will also match my livestock commissioner's bag, okay? So what I have here is just the pocket for the duffel bag, okay? It's just a 8" by 8" pocket that's going to be on the side of my duffel bag. Here is the mock-up of my duffel bag right here, but this one of course will be green and brown, the one that I'm making. This was just one I made a couple of years ago that I never got around to putting out instructions or a pattern for. Stay tuned though, those will be coming. We're going to do some classes at some of the big leather shows and stuff with it, and then it'll become a pattern. Anyway, all right, so let's get with it. I need to show you a few things that we're going to have sitting around to get this done, and yeah, so I'm going to bring the camera down to my work surface here. All right, so I've got my first things first. I did make me a template for my star. Okay, you don't have to have a template. You can use a piece of paper and cut it out, because either way you're going to be cutting out very slowly and carefully. I do suggest that you use like a scalpel or something that is just razor sharp, and like I put a fresh blade on this one just for this project. But I need the leather that I'm going to cut my star out of. See where it's already got a hole in it? I was like, well, screw it, I'm cutting that star out of it anyway, it doesn't matter. So I need the leather I'm cutting my star out of. I need what I want to protrude through that. This is just a super duper thin off-white. It's the same leather I used on both of these. I don't like white. I know people that have watched my videos know that I don't like white thread. I don't like white leather. It just, if it gets dirty, it looks dirty. So this is kind of a bone colored leather right here, okay? And then you need a backer, okay? Like you need a lining behind it so that you don't have fragile stitches and stuff like that. Again, this is super duper thin leather here. This is like 1 ounce. I mean, this is garment weight leather right here. You can use a heavier one, but that's just the one I happen to have. That's the bone white color I want. Okay, now let's start with cutting out our star. Okay. Now the funny thing about this star is it looks very symmetrical until you go to turn it, and then it doesn't fit back in its hole. So once I cut it out, I need to make sure I mark the top of it, just so that later I'm not playing Where's Waldo with trying to rotate it and get it back how it belongs. Okay. So my template is the size of my pocket. Again, not necessary at all. You can always measure your piece, throw your paper pattern out there, and cut it out. But I do have the ability to make templates anytime I want, so therefore why wouldn't I, right? Okay, now, so when I cut this star out, I don't care about the star itself, okay? I do want to make sure I don't accidentally cut an entire leg off or something, but this star will be a backing, okay? I'm going to put it back behind the white so that it kind of protrudes out like that, all right? So I need to make sure that the star is in one piece, but it's okay if I accidentally overcut a line or something like that. What I do care about is everything outside of that star. If I accidentally overcut a line, then you're going to see it on your finished project, and you'd better just start over. Okay? So, again, I use this part of the template or piece of paper to cut so that I make sure I don't accidentally overcut a line. Because if I start right here and cut this way, then it'll be fine. Because again, I can cut as far into this as I want. I just can't cut past the top of my star. So we're going to press that blade down a little bit, and we're going to cut it. Okay? And I'm being very careful not to send my blade too far up into that point. I can always trim this sucker out later, but if I send the blade too high, too far into the point, then I'm screwed. You'll see it on my finished project, and I don't want that. Okay. I am being careful not to move my leather or anything, so I am having to cut at some weird angles for me. I could move it, because what I would do is I would actually just move the entire cutting board. But once I move the leather, if I accidentally move my template, then I'm just not going to get it lined up exactly how I need it again. So I apologize if my hands get in the way, but I also have to save the project, because this is going onto my new travel bag. I've got a pair of boots sitting over here that were the boots I got married in, made by my friend Dustin Lau of Ducks Heritage boots down in Salado, and I pulled them out so that I could show you like real inlay work. Okay, I mean, I can kind of halfway do some inlay work, but there's what a boot maker does for inlay work. Okay, and this is all kid skin, so it's nice and thin, but I mean, his stitching and everything is just amazing on these. He gets really in there with tiny stitches, matching threads, very small thread. I think he uses like a size 46 thread, and of course I use big old bulky, but it also kind of fits my design. So anyway, all right, so I'm gonna take this template off here, and we'll see how good I did. I didn't do very good at all on one line, but that's okay. It's a solid line, so I can still go in there and cut it out. Okay, and now in these little corners, I'm just going to go in here and just kind of saw a tiny bit toward the corner until that star falls out. And this is 5 to 6 ounce oil tan probably. It's a heavier leather. It's not near as if I was doing this on 2 ounce kid skin. It sure would be a lot easier, but again, not the look I'm going for. Okay, so I'm gonna just take my fingernail and mark up here, and you can barely see it, but I can see it. That's the top of my pocket. Obviously the star points towards it. I guess I didn't really need to do that, but I also need to know where the top of my star is, because again, if I rotate it 90 degrees or whatever, it doesn't quite fit back in the hole again. Okay, all right, now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go along here, and I'm just going to barely skive off the top corners. Super easy to do. Okay, doesn't have to be the prettiest job in the world. Okay, but I'll do all the rights and then I'll do all the lefts, I guess you can say. Okay, and what it is, that helps it fit behind the piece of leather that has to fit between it and the outline that's in the main pocket there. For a really good class on this, Lisa Sorrell teaches at some of the major leather shows. She teaches an inlay and overlay class, which really also, I've heard her laugh that it also becomes a skiving class, because so many people don't do any skiving at all, and she has to show them that first. But anyway, then again, Dustin Lau taught one of these classes at my shop. He got way more into it than what I'm showing you here, but I mean, it was a great class though. Everybody had a good time. So anyway, I'm just, again, if you've got a nice sharp scalpel, I mean, skiving this off is not a problem at all. It's much easier to skive the grain side of the leather than it is the flesh side of the leather. So super easy. I'm not doing this because I'm so talented. I'm doing it because it's easy. I'm a little talented, don't get me wrong. Alright, so we almost got this bad boy skived up. There we go. Okay, now, I should have grabbed my glue, and I did not, but I'm about to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put glue all over the back of this, all over the front of this, and I'm going to glue them together. Just like that. And then once that's glued together, I'm going to stick it in this. Okay, and then I've got a couple of options. I can very carefully carry it over there and try to sew it together as is, or I can apply some rubber cement to the back of this, or even just regular contact cement, I guess, and then try to put them together to temporarily hold while we just sew around real quick. Okay, but I'm going to go grab my glue and I'll be right back. Alright, so here I have my contact cement. Now I will say this, in Dustin's class he taught about using rubber cement, because if you get rubber cement on the finished side of one of these leathers, you can just peel it right away when you're done. So it actually is an advantageous thing to use, okay? But for this part especially, it doesn't matter because I'm doing the back of this and the front of something that'll never ever be seen. So I'm gonna use my contact cement and I'll spread it all over this dang thing. Okay, now if this were not such a thin piece of leather, I would probably skive its edges as well, just so you couldn't feel it underneath the finished project. Okay, but it is once again very thin leather, so it'll be alright. Okay, a little bit of glue, la-di-da. And I don't have to be all exacting about this. I'm just literally holding it together before it gets sewn together. Okay? Alright, we're going to give that just a couple of minutes to set up, and then we'll put them together. Alright, so that's set up enough that we can glue these two pieces together. So I'm just going to take my little star and put it right smack in the middle of that white piece there. Okay, and again, the glue is on the back side of this white piece here, okay, the flesh side. Alright, now, I can kind of press down around this and see the outline of it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my, and it also is just barely sticking to my cutting board when I do that, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find the top of my star here, my cutout. And again, if you did it on paper, you've got this cut out, so it's fine to do it this way. Seriously? 5th time's a charm, I reckon. Okay. I'm going to take my pocket knife here and just scuff that up a little bit so I know that that's the top. So, I'm going to hold that over that. Okay, I'm going to put the star over its little cutout that's in there, and I went ahead and I want to do this right for you, so I went ahead and grabbed my rubber cement. Okay, dusty old can because I hardly ever use it, and I'm just going to rubber cement around my star. Okay, and again, we're using rubber cement because if I accidentally get some of it in an area that shows, it'll just peel right off after we're done, and that's cool. Okay. So I'm just spreading her around. And now I'm going to wait. Once again, I need to wait for that to set up some and get sticky. Okay, rubber cement is very different than contact cement. You know, it needs to dry to the point that it's like rubber, and then it will stick to the back of this when I put it on there. Okay, we'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. So we've got the rubber cement has dried on it, and I'm lucky that it's still kind of stuck down to my cutting board too, so it should be easier to place this on it. And I'm going to leave that star right there because that might help too. Maybe it won't. I probably should have pulled it off. I'm going to go ahead and take that thing out of there. Hopefully it's not glued down. Alright. Alright, so I can kind of see where my star is underneath there. and I'm just going to press around with my fingers and get the top leather lined up on it. And I do have a couple of places where there's excess rubber cement, and that's okay. My white leather folded up under here accidentally when I moved that star, I guess. There we go. Now it's laying a lot better. Okay, and then you can take a hammer. I'm not using a hammer. Normally I would use a hammer for this, flat-faced hammer. But since my video camera is sitting on the same table as this, a hammer is not going to be good. So I'm just going to use my roller and kind of roll this stuff into place. Okay? Now, I'll carefully peel this off this cutting board, turn it over, make sure that I didn't move it out of its place there. Okay? Now, I need to use my my liner here and put under there. Now this top of this pocket's going to be folded over and sewn over the liner like that, and that's why those don't quite match up. Okay, and I can sew this together. Sorry, I will sew this together, but I probably should also glue it together, just so it has good adhesion. So we will once again slather some glue on some stuff here. And again, when I say glue, I'm talking about contact cement. So, but there's no, 99% of the time I use contact cement. Today was a rare day. I used rubber cement as well. But we're back to the contact cement to put this piece together. Okay? So I'm just gonna slather it on the back of this. All the edges of this pocket are going to be under other pieces or folded over, stuff like that. So I am not worried about getting 1000% adhesion here and making sure that each piece is completely covered in contact cement. Okay? Come on now. And again, that's just a lining inside of a pocket, like no big deal. That's why I cut out a piece that had those crazy numbers on it. That's just like some tattooed numbers from the side from the tannery, I guess. And this piece, I'm not even worried about it taking time to dry out and everything. We're going to go straight from here to the sewing machine as soon as we get it stuck together. And then we'll kind of discuss what we sew. There we go. So pretty. Okay, now what are we going to sew, Aaron? Very good question. Very good question. I'm glad you asked it. So what we're going to sew is just around the outside of the star. But again, if you look on boots and professional stuff that's been done, I hope you can see it, but like this red is sewn on top of this white, but the white also has a stitch line in there where there's red underneath that, so that that's smooth. It's not layered or whatever, much like our star. So if a bootmaker or a guy that was doing a real serious inlay was to build this, he would sew just on that inside of that edge of that star as well. But again, I don't even have the tiny sewing machine to do that. Okay, you're looking at like a Cobra Class 5550, I believe it's called, or 5110, whichever one of those two is called a boot top machine, and that's what they do, is those teeny little stitches. Okay, I'm doing 138 bulky thread because that's the look that I like. All right, so we're going to move the camera over to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew the perimeter of this star. Okay. All right, so here we are. Okay, so all I'm going to do is put this thing under here and just pick a side. Okay, my sewing machine has 138 thread top and bottom, And I'm going to use the inside of my presser foot as my guide to stay right on the edge of the cutout star. Okay? And here we go. Now this can easily be hand sewn. People ask all the time, oh, well, if you don't have a machine, can you do this? Absolutely. It's just going to take you a little longer. Alright, so if you have a sewing machine, real neat trick I learned. Okay, you see where that needle's about to go in there and it's a little bit too far? I'm going to back that needle up just a tiny bit. Let me zoom in here. Okay, and back that needle up just to where it's not in the surface of the leather. If I hold down the reverse lever just a little bit, you see how it moves it back and forth? I'm going to move it back just a teeny bit. And then go back to my pedal and work that stitch in. Okay? Now, little sewing machine trick. If you leave the needle in when you make a turn, then you won't skip a stitch and you won't you won't have like a crazy stitch length in your turn. So, now we continue our march. So I go out just past where, where it goes straight out of that edge of the star. Now it's going to go straight down the next side. Lift my presser foot while the needle is still down in the leather. Okay, I'm going to hand wheel the next stitch just to get me lined up with the next bit here. I still haven't figured out the going out to the points because I don't want it to go crazy far out, but I also don't want a stitch that curves back into where it's supposed to be. So I'm still learning some stuff too, Okay, and again, I'm going to take that needle down to almost, just using my hand wheel, almost touching the leather. Then I'm going to use that reverse lever to put it right where I want it, and then I'll use my pedal to get it down in there, okay? Now, lift my presser foot, make my turn. You see that little bit right there? No, you don't. Right there is what I'm talking about. That line comes straight from the backside there, but then kind of curves just a tiny bit to get down in line with where it needs to be down here. I'm working on that. Same thing there. It's going to have that little curve in it. I'm working on it, alright? I'm a work in progress. I always will be. And if you don't think you are lying to yourself. Meh. Alright, so once again, bring that to where we think we need it. Okay. Alright, we are halfway around a star, and that's awesome. And the unnecessary curve. Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry, I got a little out of track there, and when that needle came up, I was pushing hard, and I shouldn't be. That is going to be an ugly stitch in my finished project, and I hate it, but again, sometimes I'm more worried about talking to this camera than I am what I'm doing. And it didn't turn out too bad. I see it back there. And, I mean, people that watch this video will be able to see it, but the American Airlines luggage handler guy, he won't see it. He won't even see the bag. He'll just throw it. Alright. It'd be easier if this was a square. It wouldn't have so many sides, right? But instead, it's a star, and the star has 5 points, but it's got 10 sides. So I gotta think of 10 sides worth of stuff to talk about here. Alright, and then we're going to get back to our original point here. And we're going to just overstitch the first couple of stitches again. Okay. Put the needle back in the very first hole. Alright, overstitch a couple of stitches. This is, I don't think I introduced, but this is a Cobra Class 18 flatbed sewing machine. It's one of my two most favoriteest sewing machines. This and the Class 26. The Class 26 has all the same capabilities, but it's a cylinder arm machine. So there we go, guys. There's what we're looking at. There's what people are going to see when they see my bag. I'll zoom out a little bit here. That's the pocket, okay? And again, I'm going to fold that top part over there, and that's going to get sewn down, and that'll cover up the top of the lining as well, so for the finished project, okay? But this isn't about making a pocket, it's about inlaying a star. So until next time, I'm Aaron Heiser, Maker's Leather Supply. Hope you learned something, and have a great day.